There is a secret, not buried in books, not locked in rituals, but right here in your eyes. Yes, your eyes, the most powerful tool you've never been taught to master. Most people believe change begins with thought, with emotion, with motivation. But they're missing the real switch, your focus. Because your brain doesn't just think. It predicts. It constantly scans the world to decide whether to fight, flee, or focus. And what it uses as its primary input is what you see. Here's the trick that can change your life. When you're anxious, when stress takes over, when the world feels overwhelming, weaken your gaze, literally. Look straight ahead and take in the edges of your vision. Your brain interprets this as safety. You instantly shift from survival to control, from chaos to clarity. This isn't a metaphor, it's biology. Now flip it. When you need to act, when you must dial in, when distraction is pulling you away from purposey, narrow your focus, tunnel your vision, lock in on a single point, because this signals your brain, this matters right now. Alertness rises, drive increases, motivation is no longer a mystery. It becomes automatic. This one adjustment is free, it's simple, and it's real. We spend our lives trying to change our minds through willpower, motivation, and hustle. But the truth, the most direct path to changing your mental state is through your visual state. Shift your eyes and you shift your brain. Shift your brain and your entire life begins to change. You don't need to wait to feel better. You don't need to beg for motivation. You already have the switch. Right behind your eyes, use it. Focus is not just mental, it's physical, it's trainable, and it's your superpower waiting to be unlocked. Would you like a shorter version for social media or a longer one for a YouTube video? Your brain is a prediction machine. This single idea, when understood deeply, has the power to shift how you think, act, and live. Most people go through life believing that their thoughts, emotions, and reactions are simply responses to what's happening around them. But that's not entirely true. Your brain isn't passively waiting for things to happen. It's constantly working ahead of time, trying to predict what's coming next. It builds models of the world around you, anticipates outcomes, and even decides how you'll feel, all before you consciously realize it. From the moment you wake up, your brain starts calculating. It predicts what your morning will feel like, how your body will respond to getting out of bed, what your coffee will taste like, and how your interactions will unfold. These predictions aren't always based on truth. They're built on memory, past experience, and what you consistently focus on. That means if you've trained your brain to expect stress, failure, or struggle, that's exactly what it will prepare you for even before the day begins. Your mind doesn't wait for proof, it works off probability. And the more you feed it certain signals, the more it believes those are reality. This is where your power lies. If your brain can predict your life, you can reprogram those predictions. And you don't need massive change to do it. Small inputs, especially the ones you give your brain every single day, are enough to shift the trajectory. What you look at, what you listen to, what you say to yourself, these all teach your brain what to expect from life. If you're always focused on fear, your brain predicts danger. If you constantly complain, your brain expects negativity. If you rehearse failure, your brain anticipates loss. But if you start training it to expect growth, success, and calm, even in the smallest ways, your brain adapts. It starts building a different future before it arrives. That's not wishful thinking. It's neuroscience. The brain's predictive nature is wired into your biology. Prediction helps the brain conserve energy. If it knows what's coming, it can prepare. Physically, emotionally, chemically. That's why routines and habits feel comfortable. They're predictable. That's also why stepping into something new feels uncomfortable. The brain doesn't have a prediction, so it triggers fear and uncertainty. But here's the beautiful part. Once you understand this system, you can take control of it. You can interrupt negative predictions by feeding the brain new evidence. You can teach your nervous system that change doesn't always mean threat. You can lean into the unknown and build a new model. One that believes in possibility rather than pain. Let's take a real example. Imagine you're about to speak in front of a crowd. If your past experience tells you that public speaking leads to anxiety or embarrassment, your brain will start preparing for that outcome before you even take the stage. Your hands might shake. Your heart might race. Your mind might go blank. That's not weakness. It's prediction. Your brain is saying, we've been here before. This is what happens. But what if you change the pattern? What if every day before that moment, you visualized calm, confidence, and connection? What if you showed your brain a new picture? One where your voice is strong, your presence is felt, and your message lands powerfully. With repetition, your brain starts to believe it. It predicts a new outcome. And when the moment arrives, it doesn't default to fear. It defaults to strength. This doesn't just apply to big events. It applies to everything: relationships, career, health, emotions. If your brain predicts that people will hurt you, you'll find reasons to withdraw. If your brain predicts failure, you'll hesitate before trying. If your brain predicts burnout, you'll feel exhausted before you begin. But the opposite is also true. If your brain learns to predict support, opportunity, and energy, your reality begins to reflect that. It's not magic. It's the loop of expectation and outcome, and you are the one feeding that loop every day. Your thoughts are not just reactions. They're rehearsals. Your emotions are not just feelings. They're forecasts. And your reality is not fixed. It's flexible based on what your brain expects. That's why mindset matters. Not just as a motivational idea, but as a biological function. If you wake up each day telling your brain, today will be difficult, it prepares for difficulty. But if you train it to say, today is a chance to grow, it prepares for growth. Your brain takes your words, your focus, your attention, and uses them to build the future before it happens. This is not about ignoring reality, it's about influencing it. Life will still have pain. There will still be challenges. But how you face them depends on the model your brain has built. If you expect defeat, you'll shrink. If you expect resilience, you'll rise. The difference isn't what happens to you, it's what your brain prepared you for. So, take control of the predictions. Start small. Feed your mind with better input. Speak life over your future. Picture success more often than failure. Visualize calm when stress tries to take over. Interrupt the loops that don't serve you. Your brain is listening, it's learning, and every signal you send shapes what it expects and what it prepares you to handle. You are not just living your life. You are programming it. Your thoughts, your focus, your environment, they are all inputs to the machine. Train it well, guide it with intention, and it will start predicting a life that reflects your highest potential, not your deepest fear. Because your brain, this incredible prediction machine, is waiting for one thing: direction. And that direction comes from you. Where and how you focus your eyes holds the power to influence your emotional state, your level of motivation, and your ability to take action. This isn't philosophy, it's physiology. Your visual system is directly linked to the most ancient and powerful circuits in your brain. It is not merely a passive tool to observe the world, it's an active gateway into your mental and emotional control center. And most people are completely unaware of this secret. They walk through life looking without intention, unaware that their eyes are constantly feeding data to the brain, shaping how they feel and act. But once you understand this mechanism, you begin to realize that control over your mind begins with control over your focus. And that means literal, physical focus through your eyes. Every second, your eyes send information to your brain about the environment. That information doesn't just tell you what's in front of you. It tells your brain whether you're safe or in danger, whether to relax or be alert. That's how deeply your visual system is tied to your survival instincts. If your eyes are darting around, scanning rapidly, constantly checking for threats, your brain interprets that behavior as a cue that danger might be near. It ramps up stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your breathing may quicken, your heart may race, and your thoughts begin to spiral. And you might not even realize that all of this began not with a thought, not with a feeling, but with your visual focus. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine standing still, eyes steady, gaze soft and broad. You're not fixated on any one thing, you're taking in the entire scene in front of you. This type of visual behavior, often called panoramic vision, tells your brain everything is okay. It signals safety. Your nervous system begins to calm. Your heart rate slows. Your mind clears. And once again, this shift happens before you even think a thought. The control point isn't your inner dialogue. It's your eyes. It is a hidden tool you carry with you everywhere, and most of us never use it consciously. This realization changes the game, because now in moments of stress, you don't have to wait for motivation or courage to appear. You don't have to be a slave to anxiety or worry. You can take control immediately by shifting your visual focus. In high stress situations, broaden your vision. Go panoramic. Soften your eyes and take in more of your environment. This tells your brain it doesn't need to prepare for threat, and that instantly shifts your internal chemistry from chaos to calm. That's how powerful it is. It's not a trick, it's biology, and it's available to you anytime. Let's take it further. Your focus can also be used in the opposite way, to activate energy, to ignite urgency, to prepare for action. When you narrow your gaze, when you focus intently on a specific target, your brain receives the signal something important is happening. That kind of visual behavior is associated with hunting, with pursuing, with solving, all action-oriented responses. The brain then shifts its state to match. It increases levels of alertness. It boosts focus and readiness. It primes your body for motion. This is why deep focus is so powerful. Not just for performance, but for changing your state. If you need to snap out of laziness or procrastination, don't just try to think harder. Physically focus your eyes on a single point. Hold your gaze. Engage with purpose. And your brain will follow. This understanding opens up an entirely new relationship with your mind. You no longer wait for the right feeling to show up. You don't hope for energy. You command it through your eyes. Whether you need to calm down or gear up, your gaze becomes your tool. And the more you train this consciously, the more automatic it becomes. It becomes a skill, one that can be used in work, in sports, in public speaking, in stressful conversations, in every area of life where control over your state matters. Think about the greatest performers, athletes, and leaders you've seen. Notice their eyes. Calm, steady, focused. That's not just confidence. That's control over the nervous system. And it begins with understanding how the brain responds to visual cues. You can practice this daily. During your breaks, go outside and practice panoramic vision. Soften your gaze. Breathe deeply. Let your system reset. Before moments of intense work, fix your eyes on a specific target. Tunnel your vision. Use your eyes to command your energy. You see, the way your brain processes vision isn't just about external information. It's about internal regulation. Your visual behavior tells your brain what's happening in the world, and your brain adjusts your entire system based on that information. Stress, clarity, energy, motivation, all are downstream from focus. And the incredible part is this isn't complicated. You don't need a device. You don't need a class. You just need to become aware of your gaze and use it with intention. Over time, this becomes a foundational tool in your life. You begin to notice when your eyes are scattered, when your attention is fragmented, when your system is dysregulated, and you take action. You don't fall victim to your emotions. You influence them at the source. This is a quiet power, but an immense one. Because once you have control over your state, you have control over your actions. And when you control your actions, you shape your destiny. Everything begins with focus. Not just mental focus, but visual focus. It's the doorway to your nervous system, the bridge between what you see and how you feel. And you hold that key every single day. Use it wisely. Train it daily. And watch how your life begins to shift, not someday, but right now. You can shift from stress to clarity using your eyes. That's not a metaphor. It's not symbolic. It's a literal, biological truth. Your visual system is hardwired into your autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for your body's response to stress, alertness, and calmness. When you feel anxious or overwhelmed, most people assume they have to wait it out, breathe deeply, or try to think their way through it. But what they don't realize is that one of the fastest, most reliable ways to shift your mental and emotional state is by changing the way you use your eyes. Your eyes aren't just passive instruments for seeing. They are connected to deep brain structures that control arousal, alertness, fear, focus, and relaxation. When you're in a high stress state, heart pounding, mind racing, breathing shallow, your vision naturally narrows. It's an ancient survival reflex. Your pupils constrict, your eyes focus intensely on the threat, and your brain prepares for action. This is helpful in life or death scenarios, but in modern life, most of our stress comes from perceived threats, deadlines, criticism, uncertainty, social pressure, and not from actual physical danger. The problem is, your brain doesn't distinguish between real and perceived threats in the moment. If your visual behavior mimics danger, your brain will respond with the same stress chemistry, whether the threat is real or not. So here's where the shift happens. You can reverse the stress response by deliberately doing the opposite of what your body wants to do when it's in panic mode. Instead of narrowing your vision, you broaden it. You go into panoramic vision. This means you soften your gaze and become aware of your entire visual field. The space to your left and right, above and below, even your peripheral vision. Just this small act of widening your gaze sends a powerful signal to your brain. We are safe. And when the brain believes you're safe, it stops flooding your system with stress hormones. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing deepens. Your thinking becomes clearer. This is not guesswork. This is the biology of safety and clarity. Think about the last time you were completely relaxed, watching the sunset, walking by the ocean, staring out a window without a specific goal. In those moments, you naturally fall into panoramic vision. You're not staring at a single point, you're taking everything in. And your nervous system reflects that. You feel calm, creative, and more open. That's not an accident. That's how your body is designed to operate when it believes it is not under threat. So the key is not to wait for those moments to arrive. The key is to trigger them. And the trigger is your eyes. When you're about to walk into a stressful meeting, or when anxiety hits for no clear reason, or when your thoughts begin to spiral out of control, you don't have to fix everything. You just need to shift your gaze. You can train yourself to associate wide vision with calmness and clarity. The more often you do this, the more quickly your brain responds. This becomes a practiced response, a new pattern, a reset button that's always with you. This isn't just about feeling good, it's about performance. When you're stressed, your thinking becomes rigid, creativity drops, problem solving narrows. Your body is flooded with chemicals that make long-term thinking almost impossible. But when you switch to panoramic vision, you're telling your brain, we can relax, we can be thoughtful, we can see solutions, clarity begins to return, options open up, you can respond rather than react. And that's when you make powerful decisions, decisions that aren't driven by fear, but guided by wisdom. You can even practice this during times of calm, so it becomes second nature during chaos. Take 5 minutes each day to sit quietly and soften your gaze. Let your awareness drift to the edges of your visual field. You'll notice your breathing change without you trying. You'll feel your mind slow down. That's the power of this simple habit. It's like tuning your nervous system, sharpening a tool you'll use in every situation where stress tries to steal your control. What's remarkable is how quickly this works. Within seconds of shifting to wide vision, your brain begins to deactivate the stress response. You can feel it. Your chest loosens. Your jaw unclenches. You start to come back to yourself. You no longer feel like you're trapped in a mental storm. And that's when clarity arrives, not by chance, but because you created the conditions for it. You chose to guide your brain instead of letting it control you. We often search for elaborate solutions to our emotional struggles. We think we need more time, better plans, stronger willpower. But sometimes the answer is already built into your biology. Your eyes are not just windows to the world, they're levers for your state of being. By shifting how you use them, you shift everything else: your mood, your energy, your perspective, your decisions. Stress does not have to control you. Anxiety does not have to define you. You don't need to force peace, you can invite it, starting with your vision. Every time you feel overwhelmed, pause. Don't clench. Don't fight. Just widen your gaze, even for 30 seconds. And notice the shift. Notice the return to center. It's not complicated. It's not expensive. It's not far away. It's already within you. And the best part, you can do this anywhere. In traffic, at your desk, before an important conversation, after hearing difficult news. It's available to you always. You don't have to wait to feel better. You can create that feeling right now by shifting the way you look at the world. Literally. You are not powerless in the face of stress. You are not at the mercy of your emotions. You are the one who chooses what signal to send to your brain. And your eyes are the first and fastest signal. Use them with intention. Practice the shift. And watch how stress gives way to clarity again and again. The eyes are more than just organs of sight. They are tools of transformation. Most people never realize that the simple act of controlling where and how you look can influence the speed, intensity, and quality of your motivation. When you focus your eyes with intention, you don't just see better, you feel different, you become different. Because the brain's circuits for vision are tightly linked to circuits for action, urgency, and reward. That's the hidden trick most people miss. They wait to feel motivated before they act. But in truth, action often begins not in the heart or the mind, but in the eyes. When you direct your gaze toward a specific target, especially one at a distance, your brain interprets that behavior as goal-oriented. It activates neural circuits that prepare you to pursue, to strive, to achieve. It ramps up the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine, not in response to achieving something, but in anticipation of it. That's the key. Motivation isn't just a reaction to success. It's a chemical state that can be initiated through focused visual attention. You don't need to wait for inspiration. You can trigger it by narrowing your gaze, locking in on a point, and aligning your body with your visual target. This mechanism is built into your biology. Think of ancient humans hunting prey, scanning landscapes, setting their sights on distant animals. That visual behavior was essential for survival. Over thousands of years, the brain evolved to pair goal-directed vision with states of readiness and drive. That wiring is still active today. It doesn't matter whether your prey is a deer in the forest or a goal on your to-do list. The moment you focus your vision with purpose, your brain starts to awaken that same pursuit system. Dopamine levels rise, energy flows, and your body begins to lean toward action. The problem is, in modern life, we're constantly distracted. Our eyes dart from screen to screen, app to app, headline to headline. That scattered vision leads to scattered motivation. The brain can't lock into a single goal because the eyes aren't telling it what matters. Without consistent, purposeful visual targeting, your motivation system never fully activates. You might feel busy but not driven, tired but not purposeful. This is why people often describe themselves as exhausted but unproductive. It's not just about rest, it's about direction. And direction begins with where your eyes are aimed. So if you want to increase your motivation, start with your gaze. Choose a specific object, word, or symbol that represents your goal. Look at it. Lock your eyes onto it. Let your brain settle into that visual input. Breathe into the tension. You are now giving your nervous system a clear signal. This is what matters. And the response will come maybe subtly at first, but with repetition, powerfully, you'll feel a surge of attention, a shift in posture, a readiness in your mind and body. You've moved from passive observation to active pursuit, all through the power of focused vision. This is why people use vision boards, post-it notes, physical checklists. It's not just organization, it's neurological programming. When your brain consistently sees visual cues of your goals, it keeps those circuits alive. The longer your eyes remain engaged with meaningful targets, the more dopamine your brain releases. And dopamine is the chemical of motivation, curiosity, and momentum. It doesn't just feel good, it pushes you forward. There's another layer to this. Your eye movements are not just controlled by your brain. They also send signals back to the brain. This two-way communication means that when you intentionally control your visual focus, you are shaping your internal state in real time. It's a feedback loop. The more targeted your vision, the stronger your drive becomes. And the stronger your drive, the more likely you are to keep your eyes on the prize. That's how focus compounds. It builds upon itself. One glance turns into a pattern. One target becomes a mission. Think about elite athletes before a race, soldiers before a mission, performers before a show. What do they all have in common? Intense, unwavering gaze. They are not just looking, they are signaling to their brain, now is the time. You can do this in your own life, before writing, before a workout, before a tough conversation. Narrow your vision. Stare at a point that represents what you want to conquer. Don't blink. Don't break. Hold that gaze. Let your brain calibrate. Let it load the motivational system the same way an archer draws a bow. The aim is the preparation, the pull is the tension, and the release is action. Even when you feel tired, even when your mind is full of doubt, use your eyes as anchors. They will keep you aligned with your purpose. They will remind your brain where you're going. They will reawaken drive when emotion and logic fail. Because the truth is, you don't always need to feel inspired. You just need to act inspired. And one of the fastest ways to act inspired is to look inspired. To show your brain through your eyes that you are locked in. It's simple but powerful. And it's something anyone can do. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to look with purpose. That one shift changes everything. Because once your brain believes there is a goal in sight, it begins to move the rest of you toward it, slowly at first, then faster, and eventually without effort, as if the energy has always been there. Motivation is not magic. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you initiate through action, and action can begin with the eyes. The next time you feel stuck, unfocused, or unmotivated, don't overthink it. Don't wait for some spark. Just look deeply, directly, and deliberately at your target. Let that focus gaze awaken your nervous system. Let it summon the strength that's already inside you. Because the truth is, everything you need to take the next step is already present. It just needs a signal. And your eyes can give it that signal right now. One of the most powerful secrets about the human brain is that it doesn't just react to the world. It anticipates it. It predicts, it prepares, and it moves you toward the future you expect. But here's what most people never understand. You can change what your brain anticipates by changing what you focus on. And when it comes to motivation and drive, the brain responds most powerfully to progress, not perfection, not completion, but movement. Forward motion. The moment you begin to make progress, even the smallest step, your brain starts to release dopamine, a chemical that fuels effort, sharpens focus, and builds momentum. And this system doesn't wait until the finish line to reward you. It starts the moment you begin. That's the real key. You don't have to achieve the goal to feel good. You just have to move toward it. Progress is the brain's most powerful motivator. Dopamine is often misunderstood as just a pleasure chemical. But in truth, it's much more about pursuit than pleasure. It's the neurotransmitter of anticipation, effort, and drive. Your brain releases it when it detects that you are on the path towards something valuable. That's why even starting a task can feel good. It's why checking off one item on your list gives you energy to tackle the next. Your brain sees progress, and it rewards you with motivation. It's not the size of the step that matters. It's the direction. That's why breaking a big goal into small, clear steps is so effective. Each completed step becomes a dopamine trigger, a signal to your brain that says, yes, keep going. You build momentum one step at a time. This means you don't have to wait for massive breakthroughs to feel excited. You don't need to hit the finish line to feel like a winner. You can create a steady stream of motivation by designing your days around measurable progress. Write one page, do 10 push-ups, make one phone call, learn one new thing. Every small action becomes a vote for your future self. Every win, no matter how minor, becomes fuel for the journey. And over time, those little wins compound. They reshape your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who waits for motivation and start becoming someone who creates it daily, deliberately, consistently. Your brain is constantly asking one question: are we moving forward? And your answer comes not through words, but through action. If you want your brain to trust you, to give you energy, to stay motivated, you have to show it progress. You have to train it to associate effort with reward. This is why so many people feel stuck when they focus only on the outcome. When your eyes are only on the finish line, you miss the power of the next step. The goal seems too far, too abstract, and your brain hesitates. But when you zoom in, when you break it down into manageable progress, you give your brain something to believe in. You build confidence not from having arrived, but from proving that you're capable of moving. This is the essence of motivation movement. Not the grand gestures, not the perfect timing, but the consistent forward action. Progress is not a feeling, it's a choice. You can create it at any moment. Right now, even as you sit and read this, your brain is waiting for a signal, a reason to get excited, a reason to turn on the drive system. You don't need to find a miracle. You just need to take a step. Pick something that matters to you and move 1 inch toward it. That's the trick. The shift happens the moment you begin. When you understand this, your entire approach to life changes. You stop being a prisoner of motivation. You stop waiting for the stars to align. You stop needing the perfect plan. Instead, you begin to trust momentum. You begin to respect the process. You build systems that make progress inevitable because you realize that every time you act, your brain adapts. It learns, it grows, and it starts to crave the next step. Dopamine isn't just a feeling, it's a feedback loop. Progress releases dopamine. Dopamine fuels effort. Effort creates more progress. The loop continues, but here's what's equally important. Your mindset during progress matters too. When you recognize and celebrate progress, you amplify its effects. You don't need to throw a party for every task, but you do need to acknowledge it. Let your brain know this matters. This is working. That internal celebration strengthens the connection between action and reward. It trains your brain to see the value in persistence. And the more your brain associates progress with reward, the more naturally motivated you become. It starts to feel automatic. You build a new identity, a new pattern, a new chemistry of effort. So the next time you feel stuck, remember this: motivation isn't missing, it's waiting. It's waiting for a reason to turn on, and you give it that reason by making progress, however small. There is no shame in baby steps. There is only power. Because progress is what your brain was designed to seek. You were never meant to be static. You were built to evolve, built to move, built to climb. And every step, no matter how tiny, is part of that climb. If you want to change your life, don't focus on the mountain. Focus on the next stone, the next breath, the next action. Show your brain that you are a person who moves, and it will give you everything you need to keep going. Not all at once, but enough for now, enough to start, enough to trust. Progress isn't a destination, it's a habit, a mindset, a way of living that says, I may not be there yet, but I'm getting closer every day. And that, in the eyes of your brain, is everything. Stress has always been painted as the enemy. People talk about stress as if it's something to be eliminated, avoided, or feared. But what if that perception is completely wrong? What if stress, when understood and used correctly, could be your greatest ally for growth, focus, and performance? The truth is, stress is not the problem. The relationship you have with stress is the problem. When you learn how to regulate your internal state during stressful moments, especially through your body and your breath, you unlock a kind of superpower that most people never tap into. It's not about escaping stress. It's about retraining your nervous system to handle it and even harness it for your advantage. Your brain and body have a built-in alarm system called the autonomic nervous system. It operates in two main modes: sympathetic, which is your fight or flight state, and parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest state. When you're under pressure, whether it's a deadline, a tough conversation, a physical challenge, or emotional overload, your sympathetic system kicks in, your heart rate increases, your breathing speeds up, and your body gets flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. This is not a flaw, it's a feature. It's your body preparing you to respond. But the real power comes when you control the dial, when you don't let the stress system take over, but instead ride it like a wave. The fastest, most effective way to regulate that internal dial is through your breathing. Most people underestimate just how much influence the breath has on the brain. But your breath is the only part of the autonomic nervous system that you can consciously control. That makes it a direct line to your stress response. When you learn how to slow your exhale, when you learn how to take deep, rhythmic breaths, you are literally sending a message to your brain. We are not in danger. We are in control. And your brain responds. Heart rate drops, cortisol decreases, focus increases, calm returns. There's a specific technique called physiological sighing, a double inhale through the nose, followed by a long exhale through the mouth, that has been shown to rapidly calm the nervous system. It's not just theory, it's backed by real neuroscience. This simple breath pattern activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reduces anxiety, and resets your internal state in a matter of seconds. You can use it before an interview, during a high-stakes test, after a conflict, or anytime stress tries to hijack your clarity. It's like flipping a switch, and it's available to you at any moment. But breath control is just the beginning. Regulating your internal state also involves awareness, specifically interoception, which is your ability to sense what's happening inside your body. Most people are completely disconnected from their internal signals. They don't notice their heartbeat speeding up or their muscles tensing until it's too late. But when you build interoceptive awareness, you catch stress early. You notice the shallow breathing, the clenched jaw, the tight chest. And with that awareness comes choice. You can intervene, you can regulate, you can reset. This matters more than you think. Because the difference between peak performance and collapse often comes down to one thing: nervous system control. The most successful people in the world, athletes, CEOs, soldiers, surgeons, aren't stress-free. They've simply trained themselves to stay functional under stress. They don't panic when pressure hits. They breathe, they adjust, they stay present. And as a result, they perform. You can do the same. You don't need a perfect life or zero challenges. You need internal control. The ability to stay steady while the world shakes around you. It's important to understand that stress isn't always bad. In fact, the right kind of stress, called stress, is essential for growth. It sharpens focus, fuels learning, and builds resilience. What turns stress into a problem is when it becomes chronic, unmanaged, and overwhelming. But with proper regulation, stress becomes a training tool. Every stressful event becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. Every hard moment becomes a chance to practice regulation. You stop fearing discomfort, and you start using it to evolve. This is where your identity begins to shift. You stop saying, "I'm stressed," and start saying, "I'm activated and I know what to do." That one shift changes everything. You no longer see yourself as a victim of pressure. You become a master of your state. And when you operate from that place of control, you gain access to your highest capabilities. Creativity opens up, problem solving sharpens. Courage becomes natural, because when your internal world is balanced, the external chaos loses its power over you. Over time, this builds emotional resilience, the kind of resilience that doesn't break in the storm, but bends and returns stronger. You no longer fear failure or criticism or unexpected change. You've trained your body and mind to remain stable, adaptable, and clear. That's real strength. Not the absence of stress, but the ability to walk through it without losing yourself. And that's a skill that can be developed through daily practice. So how do you build that practice? You start small. Take 2 minutes a day to sit and breathe. Scan your body. Notice where you're holding tension. Practice the physiological sigh. Observe how you feel. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. Just build the muscle of regulation day by day, and then start applying it before a big meeting, in a heated argument, when doubt creeps in. Use your breath. Slow your thoughts. Bring yourself back again and again until it becomes automatic. Eventually, this way of living becomes your default. Calm under pressure, clear under chaos. You don't avoid stress, you meet it with strength. You know that every time life squeezes you, you have the tools to respond, not react. And that makes you powerful. Because no matter what happens outside, you own what happens inside. And that's the kind of mastery that changes everything.